tend to focus, like this is generalization, but it's what I see a lot. People spend much more effort on bringing in new leads and less effort on converting the ones they've already got. Your email list is like the biggest gold in your business. I think it's false economy trying to learn it all yourself because it takes you so much time and you don't know what you don't know.
Hello. Welcome to the Ultimate Marketing Podcast. Another episode with myself, Dee.
We're going to wait and see. Next. Myself, Vish, and we have the lovely...
Sarah.
Woo-hoo! Oh, look, I wanted to try this with this. Look. Woo!
So we can't hear the sound effects on our side because we're recording it in our own individual offices.
Say
and
that
stuff.
Again because I think my clapping was over you.
Your clapping was over. So we can't hear the sound effects on our side because we're obviously in our own offices and stuff, recording from where we are. But you can probably hear them on your side and they'll probably come
is
through.
That right?
Yeah, man.
Oh my God.
They'll probably come through.
I had no idea.
It's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, I don't even know if that's going to actually record, but anyway, if it does, it'll be a nice bit of clapping sound with Vish trying to talk behind it. But listen, if you, for those of you who are listening, welcome back to another episode, like I said, of the Ultimate Marketing Podcast. We are on all the channels where a podcast would be. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, which I hadn't even heard of before, by the way. We started doing this, and we're on YouTube as well. So go and find us on YouTube and give us a little subscribe, and also download the podcast at any one of your favorite podcast platforms.
Yep.
Now, this week we have a little surprise for you. We're going to be talking about one of us.
Ooh.
Yes. I think, obviously we love having guests on. We've got guests coming in the coming weeks. We've had guests on previously. So it's all great having guests, and we love that. But I thought, let's put the spotlight on one of us this week. And we chose the amazing Sarah Cox. So Sarah, who is known as the Automation Queen. Is that what you're known as, Sarah? The Automation Queen?
Well, all sorts of things, really.
Yeah, what are the different names that you have for you?
Automation Lady I've had. Automation Lady, Automation Queen. Yeah. Different names.
Thank God. It's a PG podcast, guys, so let's just keep it really PG, right?
When has it ever been PG? I don't know.
Well.
But we'll get Sarah to tell us a little bit about what she does.
Yes.
But really, she does more than just automation. She has the full gamut of marketing collateral that you need before you go out there and start putting yourself, getting yourself visible. So let's just get you, Sarah, to tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got into what you do. Yeah, give all of our listeners and viewers a little insight into you.
Thanks, Dee. So I originally started in HR in the corporate world and did that for nearly 20 years.
Oh my God, I never knew you were in HR.
Yeah, I was
in HR. Yeah. And basically decided I didn't want to do it anymore. Started to get burnt out with commuting and long hours, and got a bit fed up with all the politics of it all, etc. And I decided that I was going to leave that, and I wanted to do something fit and healthy because it was affecting me. I wasn't feeling that fit and healthy at the time. And I was like, I want to do something fit and healthy. So what can I do? And I decided to become a Pilates teacher.
Oh my God.
And I'd never done Pilates in my life before, but I just decided I wanted to be a Pilates teacher.
That makes two of us. I've never done Pilates before either.
Can I just say, we are now getting a real insight into Sarah Cox, things that even Vish and I did not know. This is actually great listening for us too. Go on, Sarah.
Very random story as to how I got to doing what I do today. So I then left my corporate world behind and became a Pilates teacher. So I did a year's training. Also studied nutrition, because my theory was if people were up for doing Pilates, they'd be up for learning about nutrition as well. But a bit of a aside, but what I actually found is they were more interested in the Pilates than the nutrition. So I kind of focused more on that. And I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And Yeah, that's when I first met Nick James, who's my mentor today, and you guys know very well as well.
Yeah.
And I went along to one of his events, and he helped me with the kind of like getting myself out there with the Pilates. What I realised over time was actually preferred the marketing of my business to the actual teaching of the classes. So
the actual business.
The actual business, yeah. I was like, I wanted to go to events to learn about marketing. I wanted to do all my marketing. And then the teaching, I was starting to find a little bit like samey, because there's only so many exercises you can teach. And I was doing like 20 classes a week. So I like started to get a bit like, I feel like I want to learn more about this internet marketing stuff. So then decided that that's what I wanted to do. So with Nick's help, he helped me transition from being a Pilates teacher into becoming a marketing automation expert.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
So I started doing this around 2015, 2016, and I've been doing this full time since 2017. So like 7 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
I never realized, like I never knew that about you. I was like, that's today, like my mind is absolutely blown. And that only happens when we talk about AI and chat GPT and stuff usually. But today I'm actually, wow. And
so I met you around 2017, 2018.
Yeah, it must have been around then. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, yeah. So, because I've always known you to be, the whole marketing marketing expert that you are. So interesting. It's amazing, isn't it? How we fall into what we are doing today, and I think all three of us have got those kind of stories, which are interesting. So. So just tell us what you do today. Like, what is your business? Because I think, like I said, Automation Queen really really limits actually what you do. I only thought you worked with, the CRM software type element. That's what kind of, when I first met you, that's kind of the pigeonhole that I'd put you in. But obviously you do a lot more. So tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Dee. So I work with everyone from kind of like I say everyone. I don't work with everyone. I work with coaches, consultants, and service providers. And they have to have an established business, so they know that there's a demand for what they do and they've sold their thing before. Otherwise, there's no point in automating. Like, you only want to automate something that works, basically. Yeah. So I work with coaches, consultants, and service providers from the strategy point of view through to building their funnels and their automation through to continuous improvement. So I'll explain a bit more about what that means. So from a strategy point of view, it's all about like helping people work out who their ideal client is, what the pains and problems of those people are, what results they're looking to achieve, and then how you as the coach, consultant, or service provider provides a solution to that. So we kind of get really clear on that first, because that informs all of your marketing copy. So, we have to make sure your messaging is really, really clear. Otherwise, your copy won't attract the right people.
Yeah, of course.
Then we look at like, what's your customer journey? So what is it you ultimately want to sell? And therefore, what does it make sense to offer for free up front to attract leads into you? So I help everybody with that. And then we decide on what's the right lead magnet. So what's going to be the freebie thing that brings people into your world? So it might be a PDF download, it might be a video training, it might be a webinar. But basically I help you work out what's the best strategy for you. And then it's about building all of that. So I work with people on a done for you basis where they just hand everything over to me and I build their funnel, which I'll go into in more detail in a second, or I do it with them and I coach and train them on how to do it themselves. So the actual building is, if it's a downloadable PDF, for argument's sake, I'll work with people to create the landing page that the lead magnet is going to be promoted on and the thank you page. And then we hook that up to their calendar booking system so that people can book a call with them on autopilot rather than having to manually schedule things. Yeah. And then I work with them to write the first email series. So it's a welcome and a nurture email series. Yeah. So I set that up within whatever system they're using. So I'm well known for using Keep, that's what most people know me for. But I have also worked with many Vish is like, meh.
Yeah.
I work with many other systems.
Yeah. It's a great system. I just can't vibe with it, and that's why we need experts like you, right? And I mean, we'll talk about it later. But I can't vibe with it. But okay, yeah. Sorry, I had to jump in there.
I just love it. Like, people say it's confusing, but to me, it's not. To me, it's like really logical. And once I explain it to people, they then get it. I think the reason it's confusing is they haven't been taught properly how to use it.
Yeah, but that's where experts like you come in as well, right? Because I could leverage that. I'm just looking at the ways and like now, how can I get people to use Keep? Oh, I've got Sarah. Sarah can easily help with that. Do you see what I mean? Like, that's just awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And then when you know it, it becomes really easy. So it is that whole thing. I think with any type of software, I think because Keep was something, when it started, obviously it was called Infusionsoft there. When it started, it was something that was ahead of its time a little bit compared to other CRM systems like MailChimp, etc., for example. So because Infusionsoft was something ahead of its time, it felt more complicated. But I think like now there are other, like you said, there are other systems as well, and they all have that same level of complexity. So it doesn't matter which one you use, you've got to understand either how to use it or, like you said, have an expert that says, right, look, I'm going to set this all up for you. And then all you have to do is, get your stuff out there, and everything is joined up and connected, etc. So I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? It was ahead of its time.
Yeah, I think I always liken it to like learning to drive a car. So like when you first get in a car, you got brakes, accelerators, clutches, gears, steering wheels, lights, mirrors, etc., roads, other traffic. You've got so many things to navigate, and it all seems really confusing and complicated. And you think, how the heck am I going to make all these things work together to drive the car? And you have some faulty starts, don't you? You like stall the car, and you like maybe hit the curb or whatever. But over time, it becomes second nature. And that's the same with any system. Like you're going to have a learning period of how to use that system. They have similar functionality. Some are more sophisticated than others. So like Keep's a more sophisticated one than MailChimp, say. So I always say it comes down to three things. Like, what do you want that system to do? What's your budget and personal preference? And that will determine really what system is best for you. And that's another thing I help people with is like, what is the right system for you? Because like there's no point investing in an all singing, all dancing system if you don't need it. Likewise, if you want to have a really big business, there's no point starting on a free system because at some point you're going to have to up level to a more sophisticated system. So I kind of help people work that out and say like, what's the best thing for you, where you're at right now and where you want to go.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about your ideal client, because you obviously mentioned coaches, consultants and service-based businesses. Now, especially in today's world, in that whole entrepreneurial world, many people, call themselves one of those things. So can we just delve deeper into, because you mentioned established businesses, and I think that's a really key thing, because often, if you're not that specific on your ideal client, you can end up attracting people who just aren't ready yet for you. So just talk a little bit about who your ideal client. So if somebody's listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, what are they, when will they know that they need you?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So established really means that you've got a business, you have customers, you've sold your offers, so you know that you can sell them and you know there's demand for what you do.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That's a big thing there, isn't it?
That people want what you do. Because if you've not sold it organically, just like, through having a call with someone, it's going to be really hard to sell anything automatically in an automated way if you can't sell it in a non-automated way. Yeah. So that's really important. And it tends to be businesses who have built themselves up based on word of mouth referrals. So they've started to grow, they've got some momentum, they've had lots of word of mouth referrals, and either those have dried up or most commonly they're moving from one-to-one to working to one-to-many. So they're starting to get to the point where they need to start scaling what they do. Because when you're working one-to-one, you can pretty much manage it manually because you're only going to be working with a handful of people at any one time. Yeah. It's when you start needing volume that you need to start bringing in some automation. So it's people who want to run webinars, people who want to run challenges, people who have got like masterminds, group coaching programs, memberships, anything where you're starting to do things like one-to-many is really when you need to start automating some of your processes. And then there's kind of like three areas that I help with automation. So it's people who want more leads. So they need more leads for their thing. So if they're putting on a webinar, for example, they will need a certain amount of leads for that. it's people who then want to convert those leads into customers. And yes, they're going to do it on a phone call, but they also need emails. They're starting to build their database. They need emails going out to also help leverage turning those leads into customers.
Yeah.
And then the third part of the equation is, once you've got a customer, what can you do in an automated way to onboard them and then retain them? So it may be like, what else can you offer them? So you may have other services, etc. you can offer them. And we want to automate as much of that as possible.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the, isn't it, Vish? That is one of the hardest things it's not one of the hardest things to do. I take that back. It's one of the things that most people don't do. They put so much effort and money and investment and time and energy and all of those things into bringing a customer on board into their email list, and then they forget about them.
But I think it is hard because everybody takes it for granted, and it's hard because it's not done properly. Am I right in assuming that, Sarah? People just go, we've got them now, that's it. But another thing that I found, and like, just looking at the stuff that you've done and the projects that you've worked on, is like the amount of time you save people by automating the onboarding for them, right? Because it's then seamless, isn't it? Like the stuff that you were talking about, really, I geek out on stuff anyway. We all know that. But like when you were talking about it, I was like, actually, that just it's so logical. But it's just something that like a lot of people overlook, right?
Really do, yeah. A lot of people tend to focus, like, this is generalization, but it's what I see a lot. People spend much more effort on bringing in new leads and less effort on converting the ones they've already got. So, and also, if they've already got customers, they're focusing on getting new customers more than they're focusing on trying to retain the customers they've got. And there is a saying that it's so much easier to retain and sell to an existing customer than bring in a new one.
Yeah, because they've built that trust with you, haven't they? Because they'd be either with,
you've already got a result with them for them. So it's so much easier to try and keep that person than it is to bring in a new person. But not many people automate that side of their business.
It's not just when we say customers, it's not just repeat purchases, but it's people that have signed up into your funnel, your ecosystem, your business. They've given you their email address or contact details, and it's almost like a lot of business owners, and I find this as well, is like they go for the quick win, don't they? Right? Like, how quickly can we get a new customer? Like exactly what you said. But the fortune is in the follow up. Like that's a saying that we've all heard, right? What kind of things do you like recommend around like the follow up sequence that I think you were about to touch on it there, that really kind of helps and engages them and brings them back in because they trust you, otherwise they would have left, right?
And I think just to follow up on that question with Vish, I think specifically around the fact that when like them giving you their email address or contact details is actually a payment of a sort, because this is a valuable asset that they are parting with you, right? It's people don't give it that easily nowadays either. So therefore, and I can, and I can understand why some people do this really badly, don't they? They do the email marketing really badly, for example. So just based on Vish's question, especially for people who, have managed to get a customer based on a free lead magnet or a free webinar or a free video training, any one of those things. What would you recommend their next process be for those customers that they've already got on that?
So the customers they've already got. So one thing that I think is really important, well, there's a few things actually, but the first thing is like basically onboarding that customer. So so anything that you're saying on a repeated basis, you just want to put that in an email, and that email goes out to all new customers. One thing I highly recommend is having some kind of check-in process or feedback process that you can automate. So say they're with you for 6 months, then maybe in the middle or like a month in and then 3 months in, you want to just check how they're getting on. So instead of just assuming they're all right, you want to have some kind of like automated process that goes to check how they're doing. And then if they don't respond, you want to send them another email to get them to respond. And if they still don't respond, you want to send them another email to get them to respond. So you're basically automating that process of the check-in. You can also ask them for feedback. So you could have like a little survey. So that's what I sometimes do as well. Like we have a series of questions and we get the people to just fill in that question. So you're gauging how things are going for them. One of the other things that I love doing is like getting the client's birthday so that on their birthday, you can send them an automated message to say happy birthday.
Yeah.
That's really
that's
cool.
something that people don't do anymore, right?
No,
they just don't. I mean,
so do you get that right at the beginning when they're downloading whatever freebie they're downloading later on?
Once they become a client, yeah, because you don't really need that at the beginning when they're getting the download. But it's nice to have that once they become a client.
Yeah.
Part of your onboarding process.
Interesting.
So that's some of the things that I do. And if, for example, what I've got is, say you've got a membership, so people are paying a small amount of money to stay with you. One of the things that I've set up for a few clients is we have like the check-in process. But if that person goes to cancel, we have like a follow-up sequence. So we kind of find out the reason for cancelling. So is it the time? Is it the money? Is it something else? And then have a follow-up sequence specifically about that thing. So if they say it's just I haven't got time to focus on it, we have a follow-up sequence going out that talks about that and how what they've signed up for is going to save them time in the long run, for example. So then we try and entice them to stay, as an example. So we might do them a special offer to get them to stay rather than actually cancel the membership. So you actually keep more people by having those automations in place rather than just letting them cancel and go.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And so, even before they've become a paying customer, though, let's look at the amount of people that you have on your list that are, like I said, have downloaded a lead magnet, etc. What should not necessarily just through emails, but how do you then use what you help people with? How do you use all of those elements to then turn those and actually convert the non-paying prospects into paying clients?
Okie doke. So we have a few different email sequences. So we have one that I call like a welcome and a nurture sequence. So that's when they first download the lead magnet. Mm-hmm. So basically sends them the lead magnet that they've requested and then introduces them to you and your business. So they get to know, like, and trust you, and then nurtures that lead a little bit. So you're giving them valuable content to the point that they want to hear from you. What we're trying to do is build the know, like, and trust so that they know that what you're going to provide them is valuable and they want to keep coming back and reading your emails. So what we're trying to do is get them to be a fan of yours. So what we don't ideally want is that they sign up for your email list and then never open any of your emails. The goal is to try them to read your emails. So that's part of it. I also use text messaging in my processes. So so that's another way to kind of nurture that relationship. So as well as sending
I use text when I'm reminding them to come on a webinar. Yeah. So I remind them at that point, but I don't use text for anything else. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So I sometimes use them for the download, like, I've just sent you a download. Go and check your emails.
Yeah. That's great. And a lot of people don't incorporate that side into it, do they?
No, they don't.
Do you also use like other platforms like Messenger and stuff like that?
You can do. That's not one of my areas of expertise in terms of like messenger bots, but that's definitely another automation that can be done in terms of having messenger bots. But what I also encourage my clients to do is to, like, obviously put content onto social media. So that's another touch point, because there's a saying which you may be familiar with that, like, people tend to need like 5 to 12, if not more, touch points these days before they're going to be ready to become a client. So you want to have multiple different ways of reaching people. So it can be an email, it can be a text, it can be your social media content, it can be a phone call. So social media, again, isn't really part of my expertise. That's more you, Dee, and we'll come on to talking to you on another episode. But I certainly, what I encourage them to do is to be posting their stuff on social media. And one of the things I also encourage them to do, so it's the sidetrack slightly, but when they've got a lead magnet created and they're doing their social media content, put a link to your landing page on your social media content to get people signing up. But just going back to like what else, so there's the welcome and nurture sequence. Then once you've done that, I would then do an offer sequence. So what we don't want to do is sell straight away, but once you've built the know, like, and trust up, then you can start selling to people, and you just make them some sort of offer. So I have an offer sequence that I set up for people. And then one of the other things that is really good to have in your sequences is what's known as abandoned cart. So say they go to your sales page to sign up for whatever it is and they don't do it. Then we have a sequence called abandoned cart, which means, hey, I noticed you went and checked my offer out, but you didn't actually go through with it. Is everything okay? Have you got any questions? And the abandoned cart will usually capture some additional sales.
That's awesome.
that you wouldn't have got had you not had that abandoned cart. So all along your process, it's all about like, what can we put in place to try and convert that lead into a customer? So what we want is they either buy from you or they say goodbye to you. So they buy or say bye. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So they unsubscribe or they become a customer is ultimately.
It's like a bucket, isn't it? It's like a leaky bucket, right? You've got leads going into your bucket. You've got leads leaving because they're either buying or saying bye, but some of them just get lost. So what you're trying to do is plug those holes in the leaky bucket, really, and get as much of the water out and delivered into the urn or whatever it is you want to call it, where you're collecting. That's great. And obviously there's overlap, and we'll talk about my stuff later. But the abandoned cart sequences are magic, aren't they?
Like, there's some statistics, aren't there, about how many people, because of the abandoned cart element, how many end up people buying because of that, having a sequence that goes to the abandoned cart and reminds them of, because it might be that they were just too busy, or their internet crashed at the time, or they suddenly got an email or a phone call through which made them go, oh, I'll do this later.
The missus asked them to take the rubbish out. Could be the kids screaming in the background, the dogs just vomited on the floor, like loads of stuff, right? And life happens to people.
Distracted, don't they? Yeah. So if someone gets distracted, it's just to remind them of the thing they're about to do and encourage them to do it. So basically, just keep going until they take an action. Now, at some point, what tends to happen is we'll have a certain number of emails for each of those sequences. And then we take people through the process. And then if they don't take the action, then we put them into like a regular ongoing email series. Yeah. So you want to have, like, as well as like nurturing your leads and having your abandoned cart and your offer sequences, you just want to have regular content going out to your email list that's valuable and keep engaging with them.
So when it comes to, like, when I think about what you do, ultimately you are helping people set up before they go out and, like having everything set up for them to be able to go out and market themselves. So they've got a lead magnet, they've got the right email nurture sequences, they've got a good landing page, the right copy is written, so they're reaching the right people, they understand who they want to reach. So it's all of the stuff that people kind of rush into or don't do, and then when they do a landing page and they write the copy, because they haven't thought about the bit before it, i.e. the ideal client, the messaging is just not landing, etc. So if I was going to say to you, like, what are the key pillars that you believe people need to do and get right before they go visible and out there and all of that, what would they be?
So being really clear who it is you want to work with. And that has to be super clear. The way you describe what you do is really important. So I call that your marketing message. That has to be really clear. And that's what I help people with. The pains and problems of those ideal clients, the results that they're looking for, and what your solution to that is. All of that has to be crystal clear, because all of that informs your copy. Then it's about, so that's kind of pillar one, if you like. So that's like what I call your foundations. And the next bit is your customer journey. Well, I call it your customer journey roadmap. So it's like what you ultimately want to sell, and then what are all the steps before that, because your lead magnet needs to be connected to what you're ultimately trying to sell. What sometimes people do is think about the lead magnet, they're not thinking about what they ultimately want to sell, and there's a disconnect between the two. So you want to make sure that almost like the lead magnet is step one on the journey to becoming a client of whatever the thing is. So I really spend some time with clients saying, right, what are all the steps we're going to take people through from first finding out about you to becoming a client? That's kind of step 2. And then step 3 is deciding what is that lead magnet going to be and what systems are you going to use to create everything in.
Yeah.
That's step 3. And then the final bit is then building everything.
Yeah. Then building it all.
So we like to build it all. And then once they build it all, they need to then launch it, which is where like Dee comes in terms of like, now you've got to start promoting yourself on social media, whether that's organically or paid.
Yeah.
But you want to have that in place so that when you start promoting yourself on social media, you've got something to send people to.
Yeah. And also it's effective, isn't it? Because you can still, you obviously you can still go out and launch, if you like, if that's the right word, but you know, you can still go out and promote yourself and all those that kind of things. But if it's just not landing right, or the copy isn't right, or you know, the ad copy isn't right when you know you're doing Facebook ads with Vish, like all of that, you're now going out there with something that's redundant or not yet ready. So therefore, there's a lot more wastage of money and time, and then people are sat there going, oh my gosh, like this isn't working. Why aren't I getting the right leads? Or why am I getting really badly qualified leads? Why am I getting only these type of people who I don't want coming to me? And it's usually because they haven't gone through those sort of pillars of understanding, etc. So what would you say in your experience? And we'll talk about like the ways that you help your customers, but what would you say is the number one mistake that most people make? I mean, there'll be other mistakes, but like, what's the number one mistake people make? If you can put it down to one, because I think I've made quite a few in my journey up to here.
There's a few. Like, I don't. Which one should I pick? I think I'll go with the most common one. Okay. The most common one is bringing in leads and doing nothing with them. So we were talking about that a little bit earlier. So you put so much time and effort into getting your leads, and then they sit in a black hole.
Yeah.
And you may have spent money on ads, and then they sit in a black hole. So you've wasted that time and money getting those leads. So that's probably number one thing. Other things are not being clear on who you're working with, who you want to work with. And therefore, you're not bringing in highly qualified leads. You're bringing in everyone, not the right people. Yeah. So you end up wasting your time on calls with people who aren't actually who you want to work with. So that's probably the second one. And the third one, I'd say, is building massive Facebook groups or massive followings on social media, but not having their email addresses.
Yeah.
So it's all well and good having a massive following, but if Facebook shut you down or Instagram shut you down or LinkedIn shut you down, you've lost all those potential people who have been following you. So for me, it's really important that you find a way to get their contact details so that you own those leads. Yeah. Because if they're on Facebook or Instagram, Facebook and Instagram own those leads, not you.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen, and I've heard it happen to people, like they get well known, their Facebook account gets shut down or whatever, and they've lost everything. They've got to start again. But thankfully, they've got their email list. So all they've got to do is email their list and say, hey, I've set up a new Instagram or a new something else. Come and follow me on there.
Come and follow me there. Yeah.
Yeah. Your email list is like the biggest gold in your business.
Yeah. In fact, businesses have been sold because of an email list for millions, haven't they? Because actually the people who are buying those businesses, that's what they want. They want the database. You know, they'll come in, they might change the staff, they might change the processes, they might change all of that. But what they've bought into is the database. Yeah. And so building a great database, especially if your business is one where, you know, in 5-10 years time, you want to exit, and sell that business, it's the email list that has the money is in the list.
The goodwill that's attached to it. List. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to be doing all the other things like social media helps you get more visible, etc. But your list is the thing really that people make money from. So that's what really, like, your list, once they've been with you for a while, ultimately they're going to trust you so much they're going to want to do business with you rather than someone else. Yeah. And you're also trying to keep you at the forefront of their minds so that when they do need what you do, they think of you rather than go to someone else who does what you do. Yeah. And the better you are at email marketing and keeping in touch, the more likely it is you're going to convert your leads into clients.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier about how you work with people. So I think you mentioned done for you, but you also have a done with you, don't you? So let's talk about the two things, like, because I would imagine, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the done with you attracts a different type of customer within your ideal client sphere versus a done for you. So which one is right for who?
Sure, that's a brilliant question, Dee. So done for you means that literally you hand everything over to me and I set everything up for you. And that tends to be for business owners who are maybe multi-six figures. So they've got no time, they've got more money. So they can afford to invest that in their marketing to get their marketing done correctly. They haven't got the time to do it themselves and they just want it done. And they're not really that interested in learning how to do it. They just want to know that it's going to do its job.
Yeah.
So that's my done for you clients. My done with you clients tend to be more like mid to high 5 figures and they have more time and less money.
Yeah.
So therefore, and they want to spend the time learning how to do it themselves so that they can then rinse and repeat the process.
Yeah.
Because once they've learned these skills, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime skill, basically. You learn it once, you can rinse and repeat it. Yeah. And then as your business gets bigger, you can choose to outsource it to someone like me.
Yeah.
But initially, you may need to do a bit more of the work yourself just because you can't invest in a full done for you version.
Which means that it is vital to understand what you do and why it's important for people's businesses right from the get-go. Like it's not because I think too many businesses, and I know Vish and I have probably done this, haven't we, Vish, where we try to learn everything ourselves first, but we try to do it ourselves rather than learn from an expert.
Yes.
So, it was only once I really understood personal development that I was like, no, I've got to go to an expert.
Yes.
But, so many times it's like, oh, I'll do that myself. So, not only was I wasting time because I was potentially doing it the wrong way, but I was also wasting money because I wasn't focused on doing the things that I should be focused on doing or learning it fast enough. Like, when you go to an expert like you, Sarah, you within 12 weeks, 8 weeks, one-to-ones, whatever, all the things that you do as a done with you learn it, like you said, and then you rinse and repeat. Yeah. And then that's it. Like now you know the right way to do it. So you don't waste months and months and months of doing it the wrong way.
And also, I mean, one of the things I say is I've spent I don't know how much, mate, tens and tens of thousands of pounds, probably well over 100K in learning all this stuff. And tens of thousands of hours over the last 7 years learning all of this. And so therefore it's to shortcut the process for you. So it's basically like I'm learning everything that's needed, and then I bring that to you and I can teach it to you because I've learned it all. Yeah. So I'm really shortcutting your learning. Yeah. If you want to go out and learn it yourself, you can, of course you can. But think about the amount of money it's going to cost you to learn it all and the amount of time it's going to take.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you want to take a shortcut? Yeah. Like we do it all the time when we get into our car, don't we? We look at our GPS or our sat nav or whatever, and we go, what's the quickest way to get somewhere? How can I avoid the traffic? How can I avoid the detours? Yet in business, especially in the coaching and consulting world, not enough people do that. Not enough people value the fact that actually I'm going to go to somebody and model them because they've already been through the detours and the shortcuts and they know now what is the best way to get there.
Yeah.
But yet not enough people do that.
And also I subscribe to all the top marketing people, and I'm in all their things. So I'm also always learning the latest things so that I can bring that to my clients. So I'm doing all the consuming, and then I share the golden nuggets with people. Yeah. It's also for most business owners, what I do isn't their area of expertise, and they don't want it to be. They want to focus on what they're an expert in, and they want to focus on delivering to their clients.
Yeah. But I think getting people and hopefully listening to you and listening to this podcast, people who have the mindset of, oh, let me just save money and do it myself, understand, hopefully your mindset will change from this to go, look, hiring an expert or go to an expert to learn it, like you, Sarah, so that you don't, like you said, you learn the shortcuts, and then your business will start to earn money quicker because you've got all the right elements in place. And I think that's really key because still even today, there is not enough people who think like that until it's too late.
Right.
I think it's a false economy trying to learn it all yourself because it takes you so much time and you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know if you're picking up good habits or bad habits.
Bad habits, yeah.
And you don't know if it's going to work because you've never done it before. Whereas if you're working with someone who's done it before, they know what works and what doesn't work and what to change.
It's like when Vish's driving analogy, can you imagine learning from your dad? Oh my God. I mean, my dad's a good driver, but I'm sure he's got bad habits.
yeah, exactly. You pick up the bad habits from your dad, wouldn't you, rather than a driving instructor?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So it's interesting. And then the done for you. So in fact, just let people know, because honestly, I'm sure given the fact that you are a co-host of this podcast, Sarah, there is no doubt that we'll be talking more about all the different elements of marketing, and your golden nuggets around what should and shouldn't be done will be present in all of our episodes. But what do people need to do to get in touch with you? If they want to work with you, give us do a little promo of you now that you've given us so much value.
Thank you. Well, yeah, if you want to basically set up your lead magnet funnel, because that's the first funnel I recommend for people. a lead magnet funnel. It could be a webinar or a downloadable, depends what you're doing. If you want to set that up, then definitely get in touch with me and we can have a conversation about it. So no obligation. I can just help you with having a conversation and find out if that's the right thing for you to be doing, first of all, based on where you're at in your business. And then if you do want to do it, we can talk about whether it should be done for you or done with you.
Okay.
So the best way to contact me is sarah@sarahcoxmarketing.com. That's my email address. You can find me on Instagram, Sarah Cox Marketing, Facebook, Sarah Cox Marketing, website, Sarah Cox Marketing.
Very easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out to me more. And I offer like a free consultation. So happy to have a half an hour conversation with anyone who's interested in setting this up in their business. So you're looking to automate your leads, your lead conversion into clients, or your client onboarding and retention. I can help with any of those areas. And some people have, that's the other thing I talk to them about is where is your biggest gap and what's the priority? Which one do we need to do first? It differs for different businesses. So if you're struggling with any of those areas and you want to set up automation, definitely email me, sarah@sarahcoxmarketing.com, and I'll send you a link to book in a time with me.
And with your Done With You programs, I believe you've got both one-to-ones and group. Is that right?
Right. So Done With You. I've got one-to-one for people who want a bit more of my time. So that's like an 8-week process where it's literally one-to-one. We have 8 sessions where I'm coaching you on what you need to build. You go away and do the work using my templates. And then you come back to me and I critique it, review it, etc., give you some feedback and then teach you the next thing.
Okay.
The group version is the same process. We just do it over 12 weeks. It takes a little bit longer when you've got a group of people. Yeah. So the whole process is like, getting that initial piece, your foundation sorted, like your ideal client piece, your marketing message, getting that really clear. You're deciding what your lead magnet's going to be, deciding what system you're going to use. Then you build it using my templates. Then we talk about launching it. So how are you going to get it out there to the world? Like, what do you need to do? Is it organic marketing? Is it paid? And then one really important piece of the jigsaw that I haven't really talked about very much is once it's launched, it's a process of continuous improvement. So it's not a once and done thing. It's a launch it, test it, measure the results, and then refine it. Because the market's going to tell you whether or not what you've created is what they want. Yeah. Like you and I might think it's the best thing, but if no one's downloading it, it's not the best thing.
Not the best thing.
So we want to, test it. Make sure it is the right thing. And then one of the things I look at is all your conversion rates. So I won't go into too much detail on that now, but it's like, how well is it converting? Yeah. And therefore, what can we do to increase your conversion rates?
Yeah. And that's important to know, isn't it? The statistics and the analytics and all of that is really important to know, because if you don't know how to refine it. And I think that's one key thing, isn't it? And Vish, you and I talk about this all the time. Marketing there are no guarantees in marketing. You get all of this stuff done, and then when you go out and market it, you need to refine it. There's always going to be ways to tweak it. Yeah. And then, like you said, Sarah, earlier on, 3 months down the line, you might need to change it again because that particular thing isn't working anymore. So I think that's why having Sarah in your pocket is a good idea.
And it happens because people get offer blindness, right? They'll see the same offer and they'll get blind to it. They become immune to it, just like anything in the world. So you have to keep doing that. It's constant, I think you touched on earlier on, Sarah, constant improvement. Constantly improving, and that's literally what it is. And CRO is part of that. Conversion rate optimization. You've got to carry on trying new things to just get that % improvement in your conversion rates. But that's what geeks me out, and that's why I'm smiling right now. So.
And that's really important because this comes into the mistakes. Like this is again a generalization. People say it's not working. It's not that it's not working. It's one element isn't working. There's so many pieces of the jigsaw. It's working out which element of that jigsaw isn't working.
Yeah.
You may be getting tons of opt-ins, but no one's booking a call. Okay, so it is working. You're getting the leads. So there's something around the booking a call process we need to tweak.
Yeah.
Or they're getting on a call and not buying, in which case it's something that's happening on the call that's the problem.
Yeah.
So we've got to work out where the problem lies. The big mistake is like, it's not working. And then I'm just going to move on to the next shiny thing. Whereas actually that's the worst thing you can do. The best thing you can do is stick with it and fine tune it until it becomes well-oiled machine.
And figure out what that gap that needs to be filled is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Did I know that she was a Pilates teacher? Vish, did you know that she was in HR?
Next time we are in a face-to-face meeting, I expect you to show Dee how to do some Pilates, Sarah. That's it. Done. Challenge set.
which will not be recorded, just so you guys know.
Camera crew in tow. I've got my digital camera, but I'm coming for you, mate. I'm coming for you.
Well, listen, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ultimate Marketing Podcast. Remember, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Ultimate Marketing Podcast, and also to Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. What are the other ones? I don't even know what the other ones are.
There's loads of them. There's all, and you'll see them all around. Just search for the Ultimate Marketing Podcast with Dee, Sarah, and Vish.
Yeah, just on any of the podcast platforms, if you put in the Ultimate Marketing Podcast, you'll find myself, Sarah, and Vish there waiting for you. So give us a little download, because we're always bringing you lots of nuggets on how to improve your marketing. And the nuggets that we bring you are present things that are working at the moment, no matter what the climate is.
So much emphasis. I love it. So much emphasis on it. So go. And it's not just download, but obviously like, comment, share, subscribe. It's really important to do that. The more you like it and comment on it, the better it is for the algos. And also share it with your friends. There might be somebody out there who hasn't heard the podcast live or subscribed to the channel as yet, but you know that whatever we're talking about on this or any of the previous episodes or in the future episodes is going to be helpful to them, and it will help serve them. So give your friends the gift of that knowledge and share this out with them.
Brilliant. Well, we'll see you next time. Bye.